The What's Happening Hoke show is filmed before a live audience and is sponsored by the Rock of Hoke, Rockfish Motor Speedway. What's happening, Hoke? I'm Glenn Young. Alongside me is Commissioner, Hoke County Commissioner, Alan Thomas. Now, Hal went out to the beach early, so Commissioner Thomas was good enough to come on the show. We had talked last week after the community board meeting, and it was a great meeting. Now, since then, as of Monday, the budget is signed. So we're just going to jump right into it. Tell us what you have so far, or what you know.
Sure. Well, on Monday morning we passed the budget. The major things of the budget was it included a 2-cent tax increase, so our property tax rates go up to 75 cents per $100 of valuation. What we were able to do were to fund 5 cars for our sheriff's department. We were able to increase funding for those major departments.
So they get 5 additional cars.
Yes.
Of course, they lost one recently.
Yeah, and what they do, they have a system where they replace cars. State has guidelines where they don't want the cars to go over a certain amount of mileage for liability purposes. So we try our best to replace those cars that are getting close to that mileage threshold every year. So I believe 16 cars were requested. But when it came down to the nuts and bolts and the finances, we were able to replace 5.
Okay, great.
So we were also able to add another part-time position to our senior services staff. Senior services is a very, very important department, taking care of those people, who work so hard to take care of us. So there's a lot of good that came in the budget.
Okay. So it wasn't too contentious. We now have a county budget, but the state budget isn't signed. So how does that impact us, if at all?
Well, it doesn't impact as much. The state is notorious. Historically, they do what you call a stopgap measure, where they sign and approve a continuing resolution to get the budget through a certain amount of time. So we know the fiscal year begins July 1. They will pass the stopgap measure, which will allow them to continue running the government until August. So between now and August, the House and Senate and the governor will be working together to get a budget together to pass that will take them through the next 2 years. The state does 2-year budgets. Every other year they go in and tweak the budget. So next year they will go in and do some tweaking as revenues come in. But right now they're just working to get that settled out. It impacts us most because what we have now are just estimates on what they will give us, including the school system. We have estimates. We won't know until the budget is passed how much money they will actually allocate to us for different programs.
Now, Hal and myself sat down with the sheriff yesterday, and we were talking about the issues of, obviously, with the security in churches based on the horrific incident that happened 2 weeks ago. But as far as budget, we talked off camera a little bit, and his biggest contentious point, obviously, is overtime. And when you're talking about public safety, that's his sticking point where he continuously has to go back and ask for overtime for his officers. So that being one segment, let's just talk public safety. Okay. And overtime hours. And when you talk about overtime, that was something in the news this week as well with the passing of the bill. If you make $23,000, that's what it was currently, that you would be able to get paid overtime. Now up to a $50,000, you get paid $50,000 salary. Now you got to get paid overtime. So I don't know if that plays in too much, but when you're talking nurses, public safety, it could be an issue.
Yeah, we don't anticipate that impacting us. We pay our employees overtime regardless of the amount of money that they make. So we're kind of ahead of the game when it comes to that good legislation that's coming out of Washington, hopefully.
Yeah, it looks positive.
Yeah, and Mr. Young, I have the budget here actually, and that's why I'm flipping through.
Wow. You can't ask for any better. The man came prepared. He brought the actual Hoke County budget. Is here. We got a few people out in the audience, and we're going to field some questions in the second segment here. But I mean, this is great, and I cannot stress you how much we appreciate you for coming back on the show. Yes, so I'm looking at this like part 2 of our interview.
Yeah, and when it comes to overtime, I just wanted to answer that question. Last year, the sheriff was given $92,000 in overtime funds. Okay. The sheriff's department, not the jail, $92,000. This year, he's given $190,000 for overtime. So we are
almost double.
Yeah, right. We're working to solve those issues.
And ironically, just so you know, that was the figure that he put out, 180, is what he asked for, and then I got 190. So that contentious point, hey, you heard it. it's moving forward, so hey, you at least got what he asked for in that particular line. How long have you been in office?
I've been in office for 7 months.
You were the newest elected commissioner. What have you seen so far?
So far, I've seen how government works on the inside. You know, we have a lot of opinions when we're on the outside looking in.
Right.
When you get on the inside, you're privy to a whole lot more information about the finances. You know, how the structure really is and how the balances are. I would say I would love to have more people engaged in government.
Right.
You know, I can't stress enough what it feels like to go into a meeting, a very important meeting that will tell the future of this county,
right,
and only see 4 people there.
Yeah.
You know, we ask people, you know, please share with us your thoughts. You know, what do you think about the budget? You know, and the 2 people who did speak at the budget hearing, they spoke in favor of a tax increase.
Really?
You know, now I didn't vote for the tax increase, but I also cannot talk bad about the commissioners who did.
Right.
When we sit there and offer everyone who has anything to say about the budget to come speak, everyone who spoke said, look, please raise our taxes.
That's what we need, right?
Yeah, so, you know, and that's what took place, and I would like to hear from more people. It should be more than 2 people speaking when it comes to the budget.
People need to know how their money is being spent instead of sitting back and complaining, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. One last contentious point that I had, and I know you went down to Rockfish Hoke Elementary School with the ACs, and they still didn't have those ACs. Is that something as far as the education that they can fix? And you know, school's going to start here pretty quick, and then we're going to be back in the same issue. What could you say in reference to education?
As far as those chillers, that's what they call ACs in those schools, those chillers, we funded that months and months and months ago.
Wow.
You know, what the issue is that they were created specifically for that school. So it's not an AC unit that we can buy for our homes where you go to Lowe's and pick one out.
Right.
You know, they actually made it from scratch almost, you know, an AC unit to fit that school perfectly, and that took months to make.
Wow.
And I didn't know that, you know, whenever we funded it, I'm thinking maybe in 2 months it should be up and running. But, you know, talking and working closely with the school system, they were able to tell us why it took so long. So now that the chillers have been ordered, they've been made, you know, they've been transported here, we're hoping that they will be installed and ready to go, so when the students get back in August, everything will be cool, and the students won't have to worry about doing anything but learn.
That's what we hope. They can focus in and learn.
And if it's not working, I say go to the Board of Education meeting.
Right.
You know,
another meeting that people need to attend.
Yeah, because what we like to do is get on Facebook and vent.
Right.
You know, we like to get into the community and go to Walmart and vent. Tell our neighbors.
Throw rocks and don't get
tell our neighbors. But when we do that, nothing's getting done.
Right.
If you go to the meeting where the people who are making the decisions are, and you sit there and look them in the eye and say, I'm not pleased, I want you to do something about it.
Right.
That's when the pressure is put on us. You know, Facebook, we can ignore that.
Right.
You know, we can say, oh, they just don't like me, and they never did.
Exactly.
But when you come to our meeting place and look us in the eye and tell us what your concerns are, we will take it.
There's accountability. And accountability, I can't say enough about you taking out of your time, taking time out to be here today to field those questions. And he brought the budget with him. We're going to take a break. We're going to come right back, and we're going to field some questions from the audience. You're watching the What's Happening Hoke Show. With Commissioner Alan Thomas as our guest. We're back. We'll be talking with Hoke County Commissioner Alan Thomas, who's joined us on the What's Happening Hoke Show today. Public meeting law. And the question we want to field basically, if you're here and the rest of the commissioners aren't, should there be a concern?
No, sir. When it comes to public meeting law, that is a law that makes it clear that whenever you're doing things as far as enacting ordinances, doing anything as a governing body, that the people are always invited, and that everything you do is recorded in minutes. So therefore, if 3 or more commissioners are together, and it's for the purpose of enacting an ordinance or passing any type of legislation or laws as far as our duties, you have to get the public a 48-hour notice so that they can be there. Oftentimes, people take that law to mean that 3 commissioners can never be together, which is not the case. For a situation like today, if 2 other commissioners were here, they could be sitting right beside me, as long as we stuck to answering the questions that you had about things that were in the past. You know, we can't talk about different things we want to do in the future because it can be seen as if we're lobbying each other to gain votes.
To get their own personal interest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And other events that you know, 3 or more commissioners are always at, or events like conferences. We'll be in NACO this week, next week in Charlotte. We'll be there for 4 days. Most of the time we sit at the same table. You know, as long as you're not talking about, like I said, working to gain votes and things of that nature, to actually make a rule, then it's perfectly fine. So, and feel free to Google open meeting laws.
Open meeting laws.
To make sure that everyone has a good understanding on what you can and cannot do.
The What's Happening Hoke show is filmed in front of a live audience and is brought to you by Rockfish Motor Speedway, the Rock of Hoke. That being said, let's turn to the audience for some questions. And without further ado, our first question, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, this is about what happened in Hoke, and I was reading in the paper earlier today about concern that's going on within our county about possibility of the state stepping in, taking over our county finances. And truth to that.
No, sir.
And this is in reflection to the CPA audit that was done based on last week's paper's story, which we talked about after the Rockfish board meeting.
Correct.
No, sir. The paper can be confusing because it had a lot of different sections. It had one section about the budget, and, you know, it had another section about the former county manager firing back, and it had another section about the LGC, the Local Government Commission, its roles and what it can do. In that part where it said what they can do, they do have the authority to take over a government. They've only did it 5 times since they've been created in 1931. So it is very rare that the LGC steps in and takes over a government. And I believe out of the 5 times that they took over government, 4 of those times was the same government entity. I know the mayor there. I won't name the town, but it's very rare. Our financial issues that we had were not. You don't want to say anything's not serious, but when it comes down to the issues, it was pre-audit issues that almost every county deals with. Pre-audit issues is what happens before the people come in and do an audit. They want you to prepare the way, make it easy for them. When they get there, they shouldn't have to go through a whole lot of nuts and bolts. It should be simple for them to come in and get the paperwork they need and get out. So if you don't do that properly, which with all the paperwork we have, most counties fail in that category, they will cite you for your pre-audit not being of a certain standard. Another issue that we had were our internal controls, one being with the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department has an inmate welfare fund, and the state basically said we didn't have control over that account. You know, we weren't working with the Sheriff's Department and making sure that you know, you had the invoices and all that done. So what they did was come in and say, look, create a plan of action, make your sheriff a deputy finance officer, and once he's a deputy finance officer, he's working on behalf of the county when it comes to those financial situations, and we can work together more closely. The most serious thing in that letter was about the fund balance. You know, that's where it gets serious. So I named those other things that I deem as not very serious. But the fund balance issue is serious. You know, and your fund balance is what money you have laid to the side so that if an emergency came through, a tornado came and ripped through this county, we have the funds to continue to run government, to be able to help our citizens. And what they wanted you to have 2 months worth of funds to run your government. You know, it's not cheap to run government. You're talking millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. And what happened was, what happened was our fund balance is teetering right there at the edge of that 8% mark. 8% is the minimum that you need to have. If you fall below 8%, they're not going to take you over, but they can give you some stern warnings. But what we're doing this year is making sure that we're able to increase our fund balance so we don't have to worry about that 8% mark. It's almost like you and I, when it comes to income, Your credit score is designated based on the amount of money you make. Right? It's also based on the way you pay your bills on time and all that. But for us to continue having a good credit rating, we need to get that fund balance back up.
Question number 2. In the earlier segment, I heard you mention about the citizens coming to the meeting, being aware of what's going on. But how much are our commissioners getting out in the community, going out in the outer skirts of the community, and interacting with the people, find out what they feel? Somebody live out on Pool Road or out on the other side of Kuwiffle, they're not likely to run downtown when they have a meeting. But I mean, it's just my opinion that if they really wanted to know, they would get out and get involved in the community and see what's going on instead of waiting to say, well, they didn't come to the meeting. But you were elected by the people. Get out there and get involved with the people and see what's the people's problem. You may have people that can't come to the meeting, can't afford to get to the meeting, or shut in. But are y'all looking at that, or is that going on, or the general public don't know about it?
Hoke County is a county of 50,000 people. Most of the most diverse counties, from Lumbee, African American, Caucasian, and Hispanic. A lot of area it covers. One stepping stone point is he's here today. He's made himself available for this forum in the Hoke County What's Happening Hoke show. But I'll lead you in with that.
I would definitely say I agree that it's important, very important to be in the public eye, because that's where you will hear the pulse of the people. You will hear what they want, what they don't want, and we take that back with us when we go to the meeting. That's how it's supposed to work. I've made it a promise during my campaign that I would do that. I promised people that I'll be in the Rockfish area, West Hoke area, and I believe that I am accomplishing that promise. This is my second time being here in the past week.
Right, in Rockfish, right?
In the Rockfish community. I want to be a part of each community so they know they have someone to go to. Everywhere I go, I drop off my cell phone number. It's on my card, my personal cell phone number. Not something where you reach an office and leave a voicemail and pray that I return the phone call. So I want to be a part of the community. I go to different churches. I enjoy Center Grove, where you worship. Go all to different churches, blacks and white churches.
Right.
I get a chance to worship with the people and be there with them. And after church, sometimes they may say, hey, Thomas, do this or don't do that. You get a chance to hear from the people. And, when it comes to, my mentality on that is to not wait until it's campaign season to get out there. People told me, look, don't stop coming around just because you're not running for office. Right. I run again in 2018. For me, that's a long ways away right now in my thinking. But I'm getting out into the community as if I'm running for election in 2016.
The promise that you made.
Exactly. And it's not to win votes. It's to do my job as a public servant and to make sure that people have someone they can go to talk to.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. We come back, we're going to get some more questions. We're talking to Hoke County Commissioner Alan Thomas, and you're watching the What's Happening Hoke show.